Okay, I think yeah, we're live.
Damn, you got WhatsApp on your computer?
Yeah, what you can do, on the phone app, if you go into your settings, there's something called like WhatsApp Web. So it's handy when if I'm on Hangouts and I need to check a WhatsApp message, I can use either or.
That's interesting. That's good. But yeah,
Yeah, it's handy. It's actually pretty good. I think the only thing you can't do is you can't do video calls or voice calls. I don't think, not that I've seen. But do you wanna take it away?
are we live? Okay.
Yeah. We're live. We're live.
All right. So we'll be talking about the Ogbako Ndi Nsureoku and the Egbe Bantu Chiang Limbag, Ogbako Ndi Nsureoku, the Gathering of Holocaust Descendants, is a league of chapters under the UNIA ACL, which stands for the Universal Negro Improvement Association in African Communities, Imperial League. These chapters use the Igbo system, self-determination energy, and the UNIA ACL framework to organize the Ndi Nsureoku, the African Holocaust diaspora. It's a part of a Bantu Chiang Limbag, a planned congress of larger ethnic groups of Africa to unify customs and economics through the UNIA ACL system. A proposal is that the Egbe, a Bantu Chiang Limbag, can be incorporated as a commercial entity of the Bantu Chiang Limbag and or the name of the network's meetings, Egbe Bantu for short. Egbe may be substituted for as the locals want it. So basically, we're talking about organizing African communities under Garveyism or under the UNIA ACL Constitution, just using a framework to integrate um, fair rights and principle of uniting Africans into the traditional systems. I think traditional law systems, traditional legal systems, integrating Garveyism. I think that's the natural home of it. Instead of trying to go to the politicians and trying to get them to do something for Black people, or we should just go to the grassroots governmental structure that permeates the continent. And so basically, that's the idea. Um, I was just proposing some economic institutions, and if we scroll down, we'll see that there's basically two giant groups in Africa:
Right, let's
a
scroll down.
Sudanic group and uh, but there's some subgroups that we're targeting, and basically, I think that we can grow if we just start with a few branches or divisions, as they call them in the UNIA, a few divisions, a few chapters, and we could expand along the lines of what you call Kush, Indian Soroku, and Kwamuntu, which is the Bantu zone. So
Do
just
we have any
trying to create
requirements?
Go ahead.
Is there okay? So you said that you want to start a few branches. Is there a
Mm-hmm.
particular set of requirements? Is there a criteria that one has to meet in order to be able to get into this?
Yes, for it varies based on your location. I'm thinking, let me say how to put it. No, just to get into UNI ACL, you need 7 members to apply, who are like-minded, raised first, who want to follow the Constitution. Um, just 7 members. You need a president and executive secretary. There's some basic requirements. You need in Africa, we tend to try to help people financially because the money systems are different. But in the USA in particular, there's a money requirement to get a charter, and we try to use the dues to, and membership to fuel our capacity to grow. But I'm thinking that we need a commercial wing that all Garveyites or members should be part of. Um, or not all members or like-minded members. We need a commercial wing. And I was talking to a brother in Brooklyn who was talking about tithing, the tithing system, where you give a percentage to
Just repeat that. Your
leadership.
sound went a bit funny.
I was talking to a brother in Brooklyn who was talking about what's called tithing in the church, where people give a percentage. I was thinking that's pretty similar to what used to happen in African governments, traditional governments, where we give something called enra or a tribute. Uh, some people might call it Igbo. In Yoruba, I know it's like sacrifice, or you're giving a percentage. You gotta give something so the group can grow, or so something gets off. I was just thinking about that in a closed circle, how that could grow over time, and maybe incorporating that as something called Egbe Bantu, which basically means African society or African oversight committee or African government. So that's basically long and short of it. Just trying to compartmentalize things into mega groups and seeing if it works. And I'm seeing from what I'm seeing it works. We just have to get the thing registered and start moving. And this media presence is going to be a big thing in getting people more idea about what we're doing. So I'm happy that we managed to get on and put something together. I want to thank you for that because I think it was a lot harder than I expected getting people to synchronize even in the USA. It's all the way in the UK helping me. So I appreciate that.
No worries. So I know you mentioned about the financial thing, and like for people, that's usually where they kind of get weary. Like financial systems, you mentioned about things like tithing. Would you say that doing like a susu is an option as well to be able to keep the
Mm-hmm.
money circulating within the group?
Mm-hmm. That's Susu is more informal. I was thinking more of incorporating something, but yeah, Susu will work as well. Informal. Susu will work just by
Do you
finding
see
people
that
you
that
can
could be
trust
something
and
that could be formalized though? You specifically only for like the economic advancements of the groups through like business per se. So let's say like you've got 100 people and we want to open one person wants to open up one kind of business, we all chip in X amount
mm-hmm.
and then that person gets it, and then obviously you know how it works, like then we chip in the next amount for the next person and so
Yeah.
on and so forth.
Mm-hmm. Everybody gets a turn. Yep, at the pot. Yep. Yep. That's a
So that,
that
so that
sounds
could be
good to
something that can
me.
be
Let's
formalized.
put in. Mm-hmm. I think it can be just called the Egbe Bantu Ching Limbog. And thing is, if we recruit people from who are already part of what we call African organizations, um, community organization or ethnic group organizations, uh, if they run off with the money, maybe their organization uh, has to pay the cost. Maybe yeah,
Mm, hang on, I'm just
maybe
trying to
they're yeah.
figure out if can you see if there's any comments.
No, I can't see comments like on YouTube.
Yeah, like normally there's the chat box thing in case there are any good questions, but I can't see. I don't even see if there's like an option for it. I can't see the comments. I want to see if there's anyone watching, if they have any like good questions that need to get answered, and we can sort of hash out on that. I can't see
Yeah.
anything. Mm. I can't see the chat option. But anyway, let's continue. So we've covered the first bit, and then you mentioned about the different groups.
You're kind of low.
Oh, is that any better? Hang
Yes,
on.
ma'am. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So you mentioned the different types of groups, and then I scrolled down. So we've got like you got the different like language groups, and then we've got like the
Mhm.
Sudanic, and we mentioned about the Bantu before. If you want to go into that.
Well, basically, I started off a couple months ago thinking that the best way to get an African Communities League was to target the largest communities in Africa and bring them to the table, which has never actually been done. In the past, when we were talking about the UNIA, it was mostly Liberia, Ethiopia, trying to get all these states to join, um, because they're based on political borders or religion. In the case of Ethiopia, it's been uh, hard to get off track or on track. So if you're thinking about an African Communities League, it would make the most sense to go to the natural communities that already exist and the largest ones to spread it. So that's where the names and the groups came from. The groups that cross the borders of Africa that would naturally spread it the farthest. So it was the Hausa, the Igbo, Yoruba, uh, Bantu languages, what they call um, Mande. Who else? There's a Jamatawi or Nile Valley complex. Mm. And then there was a Beto, Beto, which is basically the Awe, the Ga, uh, the Fan, the Aja people. But uh, a couple months, just so recently, I was looking into it even more, and it came up that Africa is mostly majority. I say majority because um, thinking about the Khoisan, the people who are not necessarily called Bantu or Sudanic, but the majority of the population and geography of Africa uh, is covered by those two groups, Sudanic and Bantu. So if we want to spread the farthest and the widest reach, that can be something that we amplify, and we're looking at amplifying. Running with Insuka, and I'm trying to see if we could get Lagos to anchor the Bantu and Sudanic, respectively, or what we're calling Kwamuntu and Kush. Kwamuntu being a meaning zone of real men, or real human beings, and then Kush, I think, well, it means land in some instances, or just country or expanse or empire. So just a
Okay.
generic word for empire, I think.
Okay. And in terms of, so obviously we've got the ideas now. When it comes to things that are tangible, like land and things like that, where are we looking to actually be physically like based?
You mean long term, like relocation,
Not, I mean, not necessarily
or what?
relocation, but I mean places that, yeah, actually, I guess you could say, yeah, relocation and
Are
sort of
going
places of business.
okay. I was thinking that I was just assuming that the people who open the branches and anchor this thing would be uh, places of investment. Like the people who open branches in Africa and the Caribbean would be places of investment. Um, and I think that's how where we gotta look first, based on experience and interacting with people here in the USA. I think it would be more fruitful to look there. But let me think. Yeah, in Succa, I think we just got to touch bases with the people on investment opportunities. But they say that they're ready to work, and same thing in Echo, EKO. Echo, that's the indigenous Aku or Yoruba name for Lagos, which is basically
Mm-hmm.
the capital of Africa. You got all the dudes Sudanic, everybody's in Lagos, but it's traditionally a Yoruba city,
Mm.
state, or nation.
Okay, so we're looking at the continent and we're looking at the Caribbean. What about South America? Does that when you say because like for instance you've got some countries that are considered Caribbean but are in South America. Is does that include
Oh,
South
really?
America? Yeah, yeah. So like
Uh,
Guyana would be one.
Guyana's
Um,
considered Caribbean.
yeah, yeah.
Really?
I
I
think
didn't
they're in
know that.
CARICOM as well. And
Oh,
Suriname as well.
anywhere we could touch, as long as they want to come under the UNIA ACL. I'm not looking at countries per se, but as far as whoever could start a branch in their community and amplify it, if we could get into those CARICOMs and African unions and push our agenda, you know, but it's not any sort of bias. And it push it or wherever who wants to join could join, but I'm not
Mhm.
chasing anybody necessarily anymore. That's what I've been doing, chasing people. When I think the best way we just go. I think we got enough for what we need to move in the areas we need to move, whether it's grassroots or uh, at the federal level. We could push our indigenous, black, or what we call a Bantu agenda.
Mm.
Uh,
Well, we were saying before we went live, like you have certain. Well, no, in Africa, obviously, you do have traditional governments that are, I guess you could say supported. They stand up. They are seen as traditional governments, but then also in the Caribbean, you do have, um, I is the right word? Would you say government sanctioned? I don't know if that's the right way to put it.
uh, Semi-autonomous,
Yeah, there we
almost
go.
independent.
Yeah, groups that you also have their traditional leadership as well. So there's a space for something like that. You can communicate with other groups and get support like that
Mm-hmm.
as well, which I think is good in that sense. So we can still use that to our advantage as well.
Yeah,
Same thing in
yeah,
South America. Actually, you do have groups out there like that as well, like in Suriname, Guyana. I think maybe even in French Guyana as well.
yeah.
So do you want me to keep reading, or do you want me to start reading, or how do you want
Um,
to do this?
I'm not really sure what else there is to read. I was looking at Us Lifting Us and Black Star Line Community Credit Union, like
Mm-hmm.
supporting them. But I just to be honest, we'll have to see where that goes because if people don't push the agenda, it becomes a uh, negative, a drain if it's one sided. Um, yeah, it becomes a drain if people aren't supporting the political, economic, and cultural agenda that we're pushing. It becomes hard to merge groups and agendas, especially if we're talking about nation building. We're trying to merge with companies when we could build our own companies from a nationalist or indigenous nation perspective um, to
I
support
mean,
our own
I like the
agenda.
thing about the credit union. Sorry to cut you. I do like the thing about the credit union because I've said before, like that's always been one of my goals is to be able to open up a credit union specifically for basically meeting people, obviously to for the agenda, but then also to serve the people of those communities because then that's how you get them on our side. So I think like
Well, yeah,
the credit union thing would be good. I think
true,
they're
true.
relatively easy to open up in the Caribbean because a lot, pretty much, people use credit unions over the banks.
Mm.
So that I think that
Hey,
one would be a really good one.
yeah, um, that's good. Um, I'm thinking this is probably the most important part that renaming and using the names that we came up with in the document. just consolidating and putting that into paper and on businesses, just moving that into reality, and also titles, giving people titles or names uh, in this in Igbo language as far as the diaspora, so we're all on one page. Um, it's choosing Igbo for the population, um, the self-determination movement, which has pretty much been co-opted by Zionism, religion, but it could be flipped to Garveyism, or I'm calling it pharaonic Garveyism, where we're trying to get the indigenous systems uh, to embrace the Black law and cooperation, interdependence. Um, but yeah, so pharaonic Garveyism,
Mm-hmm.
trying to embrace that. Igbo was also chosen for the military nature, whereas other groups, a lot of people get into them tracing their DNA and ancestry, and they just trace to one small tribe, or and they get into spirituality and food, and but they're not talking about a military organization, which
Well, I guess
is
it's that's down to agenda. Like, what is your agenda? What do you aim to get out of doing whatever you're gonna do? So, like you said,
if
if you've
we're
got someone
gonna build
that's
a nation state, uh, we'll have food, we'll have clothes, we'll have shelter, we'll have dances, but we need to protect ourselves. And the whole reason we're scattered across the world is because we didn't organize ourselves militarily. It wasn't because of gods or the spirit world. We didn't organize ourselves militarily. Even after being called Sudan or black by Arabs, we didn't organize a Sudanic constitution. We didn't tell anybody, let's unite on blackness until Marcus Garvey came. So a lot of people are full of crap when they come into this spirituality stuff. And uh, I'm not going to take the route that we've been traumatized since we've been enslaving each other for centuries. We just got to woman up and man up and organize ourselves and stop making excuses. And whoever makes excuses could go sit in a corner somewhere. We'll move on and comfort them later, maybe. But yeah, we've been
fair enough.
enslaving each other for centuries. But not chattel slavery that was going on in USA. But at the same time, we didn't have any federation, and that's we're not gonna. We have centuries of worth of lack of willpower to do it. So whoever's not ready at this point, they're not ready.
Yeah, well, I think that's where when you mentioned about investment, it's not only financial investment, but time investment, resource investment. Like, just you have to basically invest yourself into doing something like that. Being willing to move and put the time and the effort into doing something like that. So let's
Yeah,
say, like, you talk about investing in the Caribbean. Would one have to be willing to move? Would they have to be moving to another place, or like how is that gonna pan out? Or are
yeah.
we gonna have like the divisions there, and we just kind of, if you're in this section, we're gonna work with you from our section, and we're gonna try and I guess it's like act as an intermediary. So we just act as intermediaries for the sections that we all work in to try and, I guess, achieve what one section wants to achieve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, whatever, whatever, by any means necessary, whatever we can weaponize, utilize, however we can do it, we gotta get it done. Some people are gonna move, some people might stay wherever they can help, but most likely, yeah, we're gonna need. I don't know. Maybe I'm being pessimistic, but yeah, maybe you're right. It needs to be a commitment to moving. Um, yeah, because I don't see any agenda on the ground over here in the USA as far as we don't control the land, we don't control the taxes. Um, so it's a negative. Maybe people could open up a store or some sort of marketing or business, but the USA can't be the focus anymore.
What
I don't
about the
care.
Gullah people? 'Cause you know the Gullah people down south. I think they have land that they say is supposed to be kind of off limits to people, like it's theirs. What about the Gullah people?
The Goa people, yeah, they're fighting with the land and taxes, and they're losing their land a lot. They're fighting to keep their land. Let's put it that way. But people are some people are family members are selling it. Some people are getting bamboozled. So I think it's a zero sum game, and I think we just have to focus on organizing ourselves in Africa and the Caribbean and seeing what we can do to help them. We gotta help ourselves first, but that looks like we gotta have more options than we gotta have more options as far as expansion, and we actually have king, a Gullah king in Sierra Leone, who's registered with the federal government, his own nationalist organization, Gullah Nation of North America. He's a president within the UNIA ACL. So we're looking at expanding our options. And he's part of the Freetown, Sierra Leone, Division 717. So if anybody wants to look that up, he's making moves out there. And Sierra Leone, that's a part of the Sudanic region, expansion, Sudanic expansion.
Okay, and so you mentioned like Sierra Leone. We've so obviously we've got the Caribbean, we've got Africa, but just to make sure like that people are clear, like it's not when you say that we're taking the focus off of America, we're not saying that
As
no
far as
American is
what's been pushed, even since Garvey came here to the USA to build the UNIA, and it got had the most success, it was because of the institutions, the businesses, um, but and we've been focused on that model for a long time. But since integration happened, it's hard to get the success that Garvey had. People are it's yeah, integration killed that model that he had. Um, it's hard to tell who's black and who's not nowadays, mentally as or organization wise, and people aren't as desperate, and it becomes like a seek. It comes trying to recruit here. It comes like pandering or begging. It turns into like a begging match, and we could be here for years and not and have maybe two members active in the division, two or three members. So that's how bad it is when and you go to Africa, and you could get a whole village ready to work. So basically, they're telling us uh, we're stupid for even looking here, and we need to uh, be logical and look elsewhere. So that's what we tried here. So we should look elsewhere. That's what they're telling us. We got the land. African culture, land is a deity, and if we own the land collectively, that's a part of that's the basis of the culture. So it doesn't even make sense from a cultural perspective to look at America, uh, especially from the Igbo perspective, talking about Omanani and having land and things of that nature. It doesn't make sense to look at the USA from that perspective either, at all. So I guess we've been lying to ourselves. Also about collecting Black America's wealth and investing it trillions of dollars. That's not going to happen anytime soon. Organizing the masses because they're all in their own independent silos with different political agendas. Everyone trying to be the king of Black America or chief or over the masses, and it's just like a bunch of cells operating independently, and it's not going to happen.
it appears to be like fragmented.
Yeah, like fractal. I don't know if you know what fractals are, but it's broken up. So it's not when you look at it from a like a fractal perspective, how these cells are going to work together uh, to achieve a UNIA ACL agenda, not just a Black American agenda or a so-called Pan African political
Yeah,
agenda, but
I
you
was gonna
so
ask you about that, the Pan African thing.
Yeah,
that
it's
seems to be under the firing line.
yeah, it's but just to finish my thought, that's not going to happen. Getting those masses to come under a UNIA ACL agenda. That's why they broke off into different imitation groups, calling themselves Pan African groups and all this um, inventive words, but they're not going to come under the agenda. That's why you got so many imitation groups with the flag. They got a different agenda. Even as I'm talking, I'm just realizing some of this stuff. But the Pan African thing, I wrote books with the term Pan African in it, but I said that word doesn't make sense a couple of years ago because Pan means everybody, African means has multiple meanings, so it's too much confusion under that. Uh, but really, what I'm seeing now is the Pan African groups. A lot of them are just cliques or small. They're like tribal groups, just a couple families working together, a couple of organizers here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not really pan as in organizing everybody. And then sometimes you'll say Pan African as in they get the leaders of the countries, but all these countries have secessionist movements. They don't represent the people, so you get a couple of politicians to unite. It don't mean nothing. It don't mean nothing. So the Pan African thing is dead. It's not has nothing to do with the indigenous Black Federation. A lot of the Pan African is a multiracial thing. It's not. It doesn't have anything to do with Black. A lot of it's a political thing,
Mm-hmm.
or not
So
an
we're
indigenous
talking
political
about
thing.
going back to essentially the root.
Yeah, talking about going back to root. Garvey, uh, they said Garvey was a Christian, but he was questioning. He was more of a theologian, where they question the logic, and for him, Christianity makes sense. But if the trajectory that what we're at now is because he researched and asked certain questions and set up institutions for us to research. Um, so he was a theologian. He questioned a religion, and at this point, we can determine that logically, the theology or religions that we have coming out of Abrahamic system don't make sense, and we can determine where they came from us, but they were twisted. Um, Comparative historical linguistics is good for determining that. But yeah. What was your question? I'm kind of getting sleepy, but what was your
No,
question?
is I was gonna say so. I forgot my question myself. I think I had two questions, but I think I've
Yeah.
forgotten them. Let me try and think. So going back to all right. So let's say like going back to land, right?
Okay.
Obviously, that's a very important thing. Once you have that, then that's the base for you to be able to. We can do essentially what we want to do. So let's say we go to I don't know Haiti or St.
Mm-hmm.
Lucia or somewhere like that, and then we've
Mm-hmm.
got like a place in Lagos or any of the states in Nigeria, and we get some land. What are we gonna do? So we get the land, and then what?
Uh, Farming is big. Uh, Maybe we can live there. Travel back and forth, do business, diplomacy, whatever governments do, we'll do it. Uh, Eventually, what the UNIA ACL needs is a land base where people are living and actually operating the UNIA day to day, and it's integrated with the federal system. Um, like basically an autonomous, self-contained government, whether it's a village or we can expand from village to um, states, entire states and cities. That's
Mm-hmm.
the goal. Just keep expanding, but we gotta start with a land base in Africa that has like a spider web or like the legs of a spider reaching into every sector and controlling the resources. It has to be a land base in Africa with that starts sucking in the diaspora to start building on the same accord.
Mm.
So whether that's in the Congo or whether it's in hmm,
No, I think
anywhere,
that should be
but I
relatively
was
easy
yeah,
to do
I
because
was but I was
sorry, go on.
I was just saying I was hearing Rwanda, but I hear in Rwanda you can't even mention ethnicity. So I'm wondering these people. I saw some diaspora black people scoping out Rwanda and saying they want to go to Africa based on their ethnicity that they're owed land and nationhood in Africa. I'm like, in Rwanda you can't even mention ethnicity because of the
Well, I'm
civil war.
guessing that's down
So
to the genocide that happened, right? That you can't
yeah,
mention it.
so I'm like, yeah, I'm like, how's that gonna work? But back to your point. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I think it should be relatively easy to achieve in comparison to, let's say, the UK or USA, because,
Mm-hmm.
like in the Caribbean, you've got actual government wings per se, like that will be like like we mentioned, you have like the Pan African,
African
whatever you call it.
commi-
Like I can't remember what the name of it
commission,
is. Yeah, that's it. The Pan African
Barbados.
Commission.
Yeah,
Yeah, you've got all these different sort of mini groups and things that are essentially part of the
African.
government that you can get support from, which is helpful.
Yeah,
So we can use
Confederation.
them to our advantage.
Yeah, KNVA and the Confederation of Nationalist Voodoo Association in Haiti is another one. Jamaica, UNIA is pretty much present, even though they have splits there. I think just having traditional African governments recognize uh, one UNIA will probably help them merge or synchronize agendas or see who stands for what. Um, so yeah, but pretty much got to start getting ready for work. But that's pretty much the agenda. Uh,
Hmm.
I know you're in UK, but I think you could help us run our division and that's based in Jacksonville. At this point, we're just trying to spread awareness as much as a location, as we're sometimes have a division where only a few people are doing the work. So I think we should use everybody, everything we think of this thing. Get everything,
Mm.
everybody. Back in the day, and Garvey he was standing on other people because they were coming back from war, segregation, still getting lynched. It's not people aren't that desperate anymore. So you just you gotta change up, not as far as principles, but recruiting strategies to get the ultimate mission of empire, which was even in the title. We got to get the empire
Mm.
instead of just complaining about other empires abusing us. We'll start uniting on the like minds. Even within the organization, we might have different opinions, so we'll aggregate as need, uh, organize as necessary. But you're in the UK, you could help organize the people in Africa because your time zones are so close. Um, Lusaka is strong, I think. Monrovia is strong in communications, I think. Um, and Sucker, I think, is pretty strong based on what I thought I've seen.
I mean, even
Yeah,
you mentioned
that's
about
what
the UK, like
I'm
you've
thinking
even
about.
got Africans here.
Yeah. Um, well, I'm thinking if I had to put my money down, um, if we get I think the Yoruba, if we get a Yoruba division, that might be
Hmm.
the strongest as far as people joining the Igbo, maybe. And then I think it would just be like a competition to say to not get left out at a certain point because you don't want to be the one looking like a cocoon.
Hmm.
So eventually, but it's like a black hole. Ancestors put that in the language like a gathering. It's they call like a circle or a cavity. Um, so it becomes like a black hole when you start organizing like this. So I think that about covers it. I don't know if you have any other questions,
No, I don't think I have any other questions. I mean, it's just
but we
about.
could.
I
Yeah,
think we'll get more questions once there's like once we have like a clear agenda,
feedback.
point for point.
Hmm. Yeah,
Then we can
steps to
then
take.
we can be more clear.
Yeah,
We
so
can sort of fine tune everything.
yeah, I know we have to register our division in in what do you call it, in Jacksonville, Florida, and also like if we want groups to actually be named Ogbako, Ndi Nsureoku, or any of those other names, we have to like divisions per the charters. But I was thinking just informally we could use titles like Ishi Ogbako, which is related to Shabaka, which was an ancient king. It's related to the term Kabaka in Uganda. It's
Hmm.
uh, basically means a like pharaoh or king or house of the ancestors or leader. It means a whole bunch of things. It means everything in the world or the universe. So just a title, just giving people a title that means multiple meanings and gets people's brains rewired to action. And that's calling people president or vice president. This is
Sorry,
I
I
was
didn't hear
talking
what
to
you
other.
said.
Do you hear? I was saying that just giving people traditional or indigenous renaming the titles or indigenous titles and using language to create titles that rewires people's brains and takes things to another level um, that it needs to go to. So I was thinking Ishiobako, like just a head of organization. So you'd be the head of organization since you're spearheading it. Anybody who joins and is on the agenda, we could just give them that name. I don't want to get caught up in just creating names all day and nobody's doing anything.
Hmm.
But but I think Ishiobako is a good name that everybody could wear or a title.
Mm.
I mean, head of organization, or it's like a spearhead, or just a person to be counted as part of the movement in action.
Okay. No, I don't have any further questions. I'm quite happy to end it here. If because I know you need to go, so we can do this one whenever you can. We can just kind of do the next thing. Hopefully by then maybe we can have an agenda written.
Yeah, I think maybe we could just try to touch bases with the different divisions. This one in Jacksonville, maybe the one in the UK, and then the two in Africa, and then go for. Also, we want to talk with the other ones in our district. So, but we could talk about that more off air.
Yeah. All right. So we'll just end it
All
here,
right.
and yeah, thanks for anyone that's listening. I sorry couldn't see any comments if there were any. I'm not really too sure on what's going on with YouTube, but I think they've changed the layout, and I've got this Q&A thing here, which I don't know how to use, which I guess is going to be the chat. But yeah, if you have any comments or if anyone has any questions, then leave it in the comments after the video goes up, and then I can have a look and then see where that can kind of fit into anything. But yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Peace.
Yeah, peace.